Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something powerful. Are you living in connection or in protection? Because there's a silent pattern that holds so many people back from love, intimacy, and real emotional freedom. It doesn't shout, it hides. It just whispers, stay safe, stay distant, don't let them in. That, my friends, is the avoidant attachment cycle. Now, let me be crystal clear. This cycle is not who you are. It's just a program you've been running. And today we're going to break it. You can't change a pattern you're not willing to see. That's the hard truth. Most people walking around with avoidant attachment don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're just independent, not emotional, better off alone. But what they're really doing is protecting themselves from vulnerability, from intimacy, from potential rejection that their nervous system still believes is dangerous. The first and most powerful step to breaking this cycle is radical awareness. I'm not talking about intellectual understanding. I'm talking about deep gut level honesty. You've got to see the pattern before you can shift it. So what does it look like? You pull away when someone gets too close. You feel smothered by connection even when you want it. You sabotage good relationships not because you don't care, but because caring feels unsafe. You avoid difficult conversations, dismiss your own needs, or keep your partners at arm's length. You confuse peace with numbness. You confuse space with safety. And the worst part, you believe that's just the way you are. But it's not. That's the breakthrough. That's the moment everything starts to change. When you wake up and say, wait, this isn't me. This is a pattern I picked up to protect myself. This is a defense system, not my destiny. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe someone let you down, left you, neglected your emotional needs. Maybe you learned that it was safer to rely on you and only you. And so you built walls, strong ones, impressive ones, walls that kept the pain out, but also kept the love out. And here's the kicker. Those walls worked. They helped you survive. They helped you avoid the heartbreak, the chaos, the rejection. So your brain kept reinforcing them. It said, this is safe. Stay here. Don't let anyone in. But you're not that scared kid anymore. You're not that wounded teenager or that burned adult. You're here right now with the ability to see clearly, to name it, to own it. That's where the power begins. Not in trying to fix everything at once, but simply in saying, I see it. I see the pattern. I see how it's running me. Because once you see it, you can no longer pretend it's not there. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of freedom. One of the most important shifts you'll ever make on this journey is trading your obsession with certainty for the courage to be vulnerable. Let's be real. If you're avoidant, control is your drug of choice. You plan, you predict, you distance. Why? Because predictability feels like safety. You've trained yourself to stay one step ahead emotionally, to keep your heart behind glass. You don't want to get blindsided. You don't want to be caught needing anyone. And if we're being brutally honest, you don't want to risk not being enough. So you choose distance over depth, logic over emotion, surface over soul. But here's the raw truth. You don't heal in control. You heal in surrender. You don't grow in safety, you grow in stretch. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength in motion. It's courage wrapped in truth. When you say, I don't know where this is going, but I'm willing to feel it anyway, that's not losing control. That's taking your power back. You see, when you avoid intimacy to avoid pain, you also block love, connection, trust, and joy. You build a safe little cage, but you forget it's still a cage. The people who get the deepest fulfillment in relationships aren't the ones who have perfect communication skills or flawless boundaries. It's the ones who are willing to be seen even when it's messy, willing to say, I'm scared, but I want to connect, willing to lean in when every part of their nervous system says run. If you keep choosing comfort over connection, you'll stay stuck in cycles of shallow interactions, false independence, and internal loneliness. And that emptiness, that quiet ache, it doesn't go away with space. It goes away with courage. You'll never have 100% certainty. Not in love, not in life, not in people. That's not the game. The real game is expansion. Are you willing to open when it would be easier to shut down? Are you willing to speak your heart even if your voice shakes? Are you willing to let someone hold you Not because you're broken, but because you're human. Avoidants build fortresses, but what they really need is freedom. And freedom doesn't come from controlling the outcome. It comes from trusting yourself enough to show up no matter the outcome. That's where the cycle starts to break. Here's the truth no one tells you. Your nervous system is not sabotaging you. It's protecting you. Every time you pull away, shut down, or feel that flood of discomfort when someone gets too close, that's not you being cold or emotionally unavailable. That's your body saying, this feels dangerous. And when you can finally understand that reaction as protection, not personality, you unlock the next level of healing. Most avoidant behaviors are nervous system responses rooted in early experiences where closeness felt threatening. Maybe emotional connection came with strings attached. Maybe it meant chaos, manipulation, judgment, or abandonment. So your body adapted. It said, no more of that. It learned how to disconnect fast, numb out, and stay safe by staying in control. But just because your nervous system learned that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You're not broken, you're patterned, and patterns can be rewired. This isn't about fixing yourself with logic. You can read every book, analyze every childhood memory, journal until the pages bleed, but until you train your body to feel safe with closeness, nothing changes. This work is somatic. It's breath, it's presence. It's learning how to stay in the room when your heart starts racing. It's catching that urge to withdraw and asking, what am I feeling right now that I'd never allowed myself to feel? It's choosing to stay in the moment, especially when it feels foreign or uncomfortable. You're not going to shift this overnight. That need to bolt, to check out, to shut down is deep, but every time you notice it and don't obey it, you create a new groove in your nervous system. You teach your body something revolutionary. Connection is not danger. Intimacy is not pain. I can be close and still be safe. Regulation isn't glamorous. It's not a grand gesture. It's micro decisions. It's breathing through discomfort. It's grounding yourself when emotions rise. It's learning how to name sensations instead of running from them. Over time, these small moments compound. They build emotional endurance. They teach your system that love and safety can coexist. The goal isn't to become fearless. The goal is to become fluent in your body, in your feelings, in the language of staying connected, even when every part of you wants to disappear. That's where the rewiring begins. And that's where real transformation lives. One of the biggest myths about connection is that it's something that just happens, that it's chemistry, magic, some mysterious click that either shows up or doesn't. But the truth, real connection is a skill. It's not luck, it's not fate, it's something you build deliberately, consciously, and consistently. When you've spent your life in avoidance, connection doesn't feel intuitive. It feels foreign. You've trained yourself to withdraw, to intellectualize, to default to distance when closeness arises. And because of that, deep emotional connection often feels like something that's out of reach, like it's for other people who were wired differently. But it's not out of reach. It's just unpracticed. Connection requires effort. It requires repetition, just like a muscle. And the most powerful part, anyone can develop it, even if you didn't grow up with a model of it, even if it scares you, even if every part of your brain tells you to protect yourself. Instead, the very act of choosing to lean in is the training. It starts with presence, not just being physically there, but emotionally available. That means showing up without always having a strategy, letting go of trying to fix or manage everything. It's learning how to listen, not with the intent to respond, defend, or distance, but with the intent to understand. And that takes practice. Deep practice. You begin to realize that communication isn't just about exchanging thoughts. It's about revealing truth. It's about saying things like, I feel shut down right now, or part of me wants to run, but another part wants to stay. That's connection. That's the skill most avoidants were never taught, how to own your inner world and share it out loud. Most avoidants talk about what they think. They analyze, they explain. But intimacy lives in what you feel and in your willingness to be witnessed in it. When you start building that skill, everything changes. Relationships stop feeling like pressure and start becoming places of growth. You stop running from intensity and start embracing it. You realize that the emotional closeness you've been avoiding is actually the thing you've been craving all along. It doesn't come all at once. It comes one brave moment at a time, one real conversation. one pause before shutting down, one choice to stay soft when it would be easier to go numb. That's how connection becomes second nature, not through luck, but through deliberate living, through emotional reps, through heart-led practice. One of the most liberating truths you'll ever embrace is this: your story is not your identity. The things that happened to you, the way you learned to cope, the defense mechanisms you built, they're real, they mattered, they shaped you, but they do not define you. So many people get trapped in their attachment style like it's a life sentence. I'm just avoidant, they say, as if it's a fixed identity. But let's be real, that's not who you are. That's who you became to survive a version of life where closeness felt unsafe. But survival is not the goal anymore. You're not in that old environment. You're not that child who had to self-soothe at 5 years old. You're not that teenager who learned it was dangerous to need. You're not that adult who had to armor up to protect themselves from inconsistency and betrayal. You're here now with the awareness and the power to choose something different. You are evolving, you are becoming. And that's what people forget. Attachment styles are not fixed traits. They're adaptive responses to emotional environments. They're not your core identity. They're your conditioning. And anything that was learned can be unlearned. Anything that was built for protection can be reconstructed for connection. You just have to stop clinging to the story of who you think you are and start asking, who do I want to be? You see, once you identify with the avoidant label too deeply, it becomes a prison. It becomes the excuse not to try. It becomes the reason you justify running from closeness, keeping people at a distance, numbing out, shutting down. You say things like, this is just the way I am, instead of asking, is this still serving me? You are not your reactions. You are not your shutdowns. You are not your silence. You are not your disappearances. You are the awareness behind those things. And from that awareness, you get to decide what comes next. You get to write a new story, one where you're not bound by old emotional blueprints, one where love doesn't mean losing yourself, one where you're safe enough to let others in without losing your center. This is the moment where transformation begins, not by fixing yourself, but by reclaiming yourself. You've outgrown the armor. The story that kept you safe is no longer needed. Now it's time to step into the next chapter, not as a version of you shaped by fear, but as the version of you shaped by choice. So here we are. After peeling back the layers, facing the truth, and naming the pattern for what it really is, not a flaw, not a sentence, but a cycle, you now stand at the edge of something entirely new. This isn't just about understanding the avoidant attachment style. It's about breaking free from it, not by blaming yourself or others or the past, but by owning your next move. This is your awakening. And awakenings don't happen by accident. They happen when you choose to see with clear eyes and love with a braver heart. They happen when you say no more hiding, no more disconnecting, no more mistaking isolation for strength. Because strength isn't withdrawal. Strength is choosing to stay soft in a world that taught you to harden. Strength is standing in the discomfort of closeness and deciding you won't shut down this time. It's letting your walls shake but not rebuilt. It's pausing when your reflexes to run and saying, I'm not that person anymore. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's evolution. Every time you choose openness over control, connection over avoidance, truth over silence, you're doing the very thing your past taught you not to do, and that, my friend, is what real transformation looks like. You weren't born avoidant, you became that way because you had to. Somewhere along the way, your nervous system was taught that love meant danger, that vulnerability meant pain, that need meant shame, but none of that is permanent, none of that is you. The beauty of being human is that you can rewire your responses, you can reclaim your story, you can decide that love is no longer a battlefield, but a homecoming. And yes, it'll take work, emotional reps, moments of resistance, but every single time you choose to stay present with yourself and another person, you're making it easier for the next time. That's how healing works. It compounds. Imagine the life on the other side of this, a life where connection feels safe, where closeness doesn't trigger fear, but trust, where you're not in your head strategizing how to avoid being seen, but in your body, fully alive, in the moment. Imagine building relationships rooted in depth, not defense, where love becomes a practice, not a threat. That's not just possible, it's inevitable when you commit to showing up differently. And every moment you do that, you're not just healing yourself, you're shifting a legacy. You're changing what's possible for every version of you that comes after this moment. So take a breath. This is your invitation to stop running from your heart and start leading with it, to move beyond survival into aliveness, to choose courage over comfort, because the avoidance cycle only ends when you say enough, when you decide to live open, when you decide to feel fully, when you choose connection over control. That's the moment your story changes. And guess what? That moment can be now. Thank you truly for showing up for this message. Whether you listened, watched, read, or just sat with the words for a moment, I want to acknowledge something important. It takes courage to even begin this kind of work, to look inward, to question your patterns, to consider the possibility that you can choose something better. That courage, that willingness, that's everything. That's the beginning of your freedom. Remember, you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to stay in the process. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep leaning in when it would be easier to lean out. Growth isn't linear, but it is inevitable when you stay committed. You are worthy of love, connection, and deep emotional freedom. Not someday, but now. So wherever you are on your journey, I want to thank you from the heart for being here with me, for choosing awareness over autopilot, for daring to break cycles that may have defined generations before you. You are not alone, and you are not too late. Until next time, take a deep breath, hold yourself with grace, and keep walking forward. Thank you, and goodbye for now.